Semper Fi, everyone. Charlie back yet again. I'm going to go off script today, kind of off the cuff, so to speak, give you guys a special treat with a hip pocket class. And in commemoration of the Battle of Belleau Wood in June 1918, I'm going to give you guys a little lesson to be learned about this uniform and equipment and why the Marines specifically were wearing Army uniforms during World War I. Now, it's important to know, as today, as it has always been, pretty much since the dawn of time as the Marine Corps goes, the United States Marine Corps has fallen under the Department of the Navy. Now, during World War I, as a means to help support the Allies in the trenches and throughout the fields and the woods, the Army actually took command of the Marine Corps with the 2nd Infantry Division, was one of the largest divisions that would control the Marines. But I've actually found some real-time photographs of Marines who had actually also served with the 3rd Infantry Division as well. But we're going to focus on what the 2nd Infantry Division had to deal with those rugged Marines during the Battle of Belleau Wood. Now, I'll start off with this Tommy helmet that was actually the United States military's version of the Tommy helmet. It was designed mostly in part from a earlier British design that in itself had been changed over time, and they had even pretty much used one like it during World War II. Just like the Marine Corps during World War I, they would switch over after the war to the M1917 Kelly helmet that was very similar to this one. Now, it's a simple steel pot. The idea of this wide brim, like I say in another video, feel free to check it out on my website, Semper Fi Guy, for my YouTube channel. But the wide brim, the idea of it was, while these Marines and soldiers were in the trenches and you have artillery raining down on top of you, it was to help protect you in some means from any kind of rock and debris, and maybe impart some shrapnel that's falling and exploding on top of you. Now, the Marine Corps, especially to this day, it likes to put Eagle Globe and anchors all over everything that they can. So several Marines, quite a few of them actually, mostly officers and NCOs, would actually take their overseas cap and remove the cap badge and punch a hole in the front of their helmet, and that way they could be a little bit more distinct from just your average Army soldier. Now, the big thing to notice with this uniform is actually an Army's issued uniform. So they previously had the 1912, the Marine Corps had their own version, and the Army had came up right at the outbreak of their entrance in World War I, the M1917. And it's a coarse wool uniform. It's not very much in the means of breathable or lightweight, but it's very durable. If it gets wet, it does become slightly heavy, but it will keep you warm during the cooler winter and fall months. Now, unfortunately for the Marines at Belleau Wood, they were fighting in the heat of June in France, and this uniform, I can only imagine of how the blistering heat would just really kind of wear down on your physical being at the time. Now, what a lot of Marines would also do is remove the cuffs off of their Marine uniform and sew it onto the Army uniform to, again, give it that bit of a distinction and more class. And then many of them would also remove the Army's buttons and replace them with the Marine Corps buttons from their uniforms as well. Now, the next main piece of equipment that we can see here is actually the U.S.-made corrected English model of their SBR, their small box respirator. The first year of the war, the Marine Corps and the Army didn't have their own issued gas mask, so later on they designed this one. The biggest difference is going to be this little flap here for the valve to help better give a proper function of the gas mask, and then they also have this yellow painted respirator box too. Now, the big thing to remember with these is they are meant to keep gas out and clean air in, so they don't breathe very easily. But it was very important to don these throughout the entire war in case of a gas attack, because both sides, Allied and the Americans' enemies, would use gas as a means of basically a chemical warfare. So one of the infamous soldiers of World War I, who would actually become a commander of Germany, the entire Nazi Germany during World War II, had actually been gassed during World War I. And so this is a very important piece of equipment, much like the helmet. Another very important piece would also be your M1910 canteen pouch and cup. Always stay hydrated. Good to have clean water. Make sure you get a good resupply at all points in time. Now, interesting about this one, this is actually my great-grandfather on my mother's side. This was the canteen that he had carried during his time with the U.S. Army 5th Infantry Division while he was in France during World War I. My mother's mother had actually given it to me, as it was her father before him. Whenever I was a young boy first getting into living history, it actually was on vacation from work, was out in the pine trees during a light rainstorm at night. This was my water supply, and unfortunately I woke up very sick, went to the doctors. He wasn't really quite sure what it was, says it wasn't strep, so I don't know, maybe a little bit of leftover from the Spanish flu, but it's still a solid, steel piece of equipment, so it's very durable. And the important part actually is this canteen carrier is wool lined, so if you would get that soaking wet by dipping into your clean water source, that cool water would actually keep the canteen water cool, as the steam would come off of the case itself during those hotter months. But another very important piece that these Marines would carry would actually be a little pouch here. That was your Carlisle bandage. So it was just a small piece of first aid bandage that if you were wounded during combat, usually from a gunshot wound or from artillery fire, then that was a way that you could self-provide aid until the Army's medic, or in this case, the Navy's corpsman, could come in aid of the Marines. I'll give you guys a little bit more information later on, but I hope you enjoyed this hip pocket class and look forward for more of them. As always, stay salty, stay safe, Semper Fi, and carry on.